welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Hi, Brewer fans. Welcome back to the Brew Crew Review Podcast. Joining me today is Scott and Vince. My name's Craig. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys. Doing well, Craig. Doing well, Scotty. How about that for a Brewers win today? It was a pretty amazing game as we taped this on Sunday.
Yeah, we're doing awesome.
Yep. So I was going to start off by saying if there were any of our listeners that have been on the rock for the last week, if they wanted the good news or the bad news first. But I guess you guys already let the good news out of the bag. Well, the Brewers today against St. Louis won the series 2-1. Speaking of one with a ninth inning, top of the ninth inning, 2 outs, 3-2 pitch to Ryan Braun that was a grand slam to give them the lead, and they held on to the win. Braun's home run actually also set the Brewers single-season home run record for this season. That particular home run was a very nice way to do it. And on the week, the Brewers went 6-1 and are currently just a game back of the wild card. So that is all well and good. But before we kind of go into that more, I should probably get to the bad news. Scott, was there anything negative that happened this week besides that one loss?
Well, I guess if we were good at editing, we'd probably be playing bagpipes here or something like that. But we are gathered here today to mourn the injury to Christian Yelich. He will be missed.
Yeah.
He's out for the year. Devastating news.
Yeah. So, such an unfortunate injury where he fouled a ball off his kneecap and has broken kneecap, and unfortunately is out for this year. I guess the silver lining of any the good news is it shouldn't be apparently it's not even going to require surgery, but it'll take about an 8 weeks recovery period. And he should be good to go next year, and hopefully, supposedly, there should be no long-term effects on it, which is good. Unfortunately, it did end early, a potential, in my opinion, possibly the greatest Brewers season offensively of all time. He ended with, I believe, an exactly 1,100 OPS, which is far and away the best Brewers OPS season of all time, of qualifying one. So, with that being said, he also became just the third Brewer to be a 30-30 player behind Tommy Harper. I believe Braun did it twice. Sixto Listano, I believe, did it once. And Christian Yelich joined them in the 30-30 club. In fact, he was on pace or had an outside chance to become the first player in Major League history to have a 50-homer, 30-steal season. But unfortunately, Spurs won't get to see him. Possibly.
Yeah, sorry, that was amazing what he was able to do this season. And I think that he got his last 3 stolen bases of the year in one series against the Cubs, not just series, but in one
Saturday game.
In one game against Chicago, which was incredible. So I believe that those were his last 3 stolen bases of the year to get him past the 30 mark. But what an incredible season from Christian Yelich. And, we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast earlier, but I still think that Christian Yelich has an outside chance at winning the National League Most Valuable Player award for the second consecutive year. Others are obviously having great years as well, and I don't know if the voters are going to hold the fact that he's going to miss essentially the last 3.5 weeks of the season against him, but certainly in terms of pure numbers, Christian Yelich should be right there in the discussion, and he will have enough at bats, it looks like, to qualify for things like the batting title. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on Christian Yelich's potential, potentially winning the National Most Valuable Player award for the second year in a row.
I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to wind up going to Bellinger. I guess I know Rendon's been getting a little bit of a buzz lately, but I don't know. I guess he has an outside chance, but I think this, unfortunately, despite the fact that it was actually probably one of the top 10 seasons of any player in baseball history, if he were had the opportunity to finish it out. It's just it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the team because obviously, he's so important to this team, and it's even more frustrating because we were watching something special this year, and to see it cut short was very disappointing. I mean, what an unbelievable year for the guy.
Yes, absolutely. And depending on if other guys cool off, he could still end up winning the second consecutive NL batting title. He had a 330 average, but I believe Trent Grisham finished off his at bat with strikeouts, so it actually gets credited to him, and so his average went down to 329, I noticed. But anyway, so that's what he'll finish with. Still just an incredible season. His numbers pretty much on par, slightly even better than last season's MVP season. So how do you replace a guy like that in the lineup in the last few weeks of a playoff push? Well, the simple answer is just you can't. But with that being said, we are getting a few guys back from injury. Mike Moustakas, Keston Hiura, I hope is back already, right to kick off his next homestand against Padres and Pirates. But I guess, what are your overall thoughts on what the Brewers need to do to rally behind this injury, and who needs to step up?
I mean, they're already doing it, right? The Christian Yelich at the time of this taping has already been out for 4 or 5 games at this point, and the Brewers continue to find ways to win. So I think that the team just needs to continue to do what they're doing. We're getting contributions from a lot of different guys at this point. It was great to see a veteran like Ryan Braun step up, and I think he was one of the guys that we identified as being key to the Brewers if they are going to be a successful team here in September, and he has certainly stepped up in a big way recently and certainly today with his grand slam as well. But I think that Jordan Lyles is another name that we need to be focused on. He's a guy who's really stepped up in the second half, and even guys like Drew Pomeranz, other guys in the bullpen have been pretty lights out. We need Josh Hader to continue to be as dominant. He had gone, I think it was 17 appearances without giving up a run. I might be off on that, Scott. You can have the interns check that out. But until today, he did give up a home run against the Cardinals. But if he can continue to be as dominant as he has been in the last month, that would be, I think, an essential ingredient. Yes, Mike Grandal needs to keep hitting, and it's great to get contributions from guys coming off of the disabled list, guys like Mike Moustakas, who stepped back onto the field, and I think in his second game back, in his first game as a starter, he had 2 home runs, and he's been playing well in the last 4 or 5 games, and we'll see if hopefully Keston Hiura is on his way back from injury, and Brandon Woodruff has been throwing more bullpen sessions, so to get guys like that back into the fold with the Brewers on the field will be, I think, pretty important. And we should point out that guys like Grisham and even Tyrone Taylor to a degree and Tyler Austin, guys like that have really stepped up and been able to fill in admirably, at least down the stretch here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Grisham really setting the tone at the top of the order. I mean, he's doing some really great things, and I know obviously Kane's been bumped occasionally now. Probably around the 6th spot in the order, I want to say. But Grisham has really stepped up. It's been very, very exciting to see that. And I really did not expect it. I think he's got about a 340 on base percentage, which is really what you're looking for at the top of the order like that. It's absolutely phenomenal. And also, I did want to say, when it comes to Brandon Woodruff, our inside source, Tom Carter, gave me some good news today. So wanted to share that with everybody.
Well, two things on that, Scott. Number one, please go ahead and share, but we should also throw out the caveat that I think it was you who, on our last episode, mentioned that we're not supposed to say Tom Carter's name on the air. Something about the fact that he's our anonymous source, or I don't know what you guys were talking about it, but you said don't say Tom Carter's name on the air. So because of that, I kind of researched what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to say either Tom C. or T. Carter, but not Tom Carter, because he's our anonymous source. So anyways, carry on.
No, totally. I totally know that. But in this case, I really wanted to give him credit because this is big news. Brandon Woodruff is going to be back this week. So pretty exciting. Eh?
Wow. That is a good scoop. Didn't hear that from our colleague, Tom Monaco, but it's nice to hear our anonymous source, Tom Carter, coming through again with news. That's amazing. That'd be great. Yeah. And Woodruff, of course, such a key contributor for the Brewers from the beginning of the season through July. It would be great to get that arm back.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
There's another one of our, it's not our sources, but I guess unfortunately Brewer fan sources. He doesn't really have that much inside information. He doesn't seem to know all that much about the Brewers. But I'm not going to mention them by name. I'll just, for purpose of anonymity, I'll just call him T. Hardcourt.
It's our colleague. We can identify him. He's a public official. So yeah, no, it's our colleague Tom Hardcourt from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Yeah, I'll give him all the credit.
If you ever have the displeasure of listening to him do a radio segment, it's quite terrible. Anyway, they have him on every once in a while. But anyway, with that being said, the thing that really sticks out to me so far about losing an MVP from the middle of your lineup, with Keston Hiura coming back in particular in Moustakas, if you look up and down our lineup, it's still really formidable, and it's still obviously the strength of our team. Outside of Jordan Lyles, of course. So I feel that the other guys can step up in his absence, and then we can continue to score runs. And it's going to kind of come down to our pitching whether or not we're going to be able to make it to the postseason, I believe.
Yeah.
And, overall,
absolutely.
Yeah, overall, some of the acquisitions that Stearns did make that I know us and a lot of Brewer fans did question really seem to be coming through for us. I mean, if you look at Jordan Lyles, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Drew Pomeranz has been pretty valuable lefty out of the bullpen, and Ray Black, even who I wasn't even sure was going to contribute much this year at all, has been pretty awesome in the middle of the bullpen too. So yeah, I guess in hindsight, those guys are coming through for us.
Well, if you look too, I mean, obviously losing a power left-handed bat like Yelich is going to be devastating to any lineup. But I mean, when you look at ours, I mean, we got guys stepping up now. I mean, Grandal is switch hitter, but he still provides that power from the left side. Moustakas is back now. Eric Thames to a lesser extent, and we have Travis Shaw.
Yep.
He drew a walk today. That's a big deal.
Wouldn't it be amazing if he gets hot over the next 3 weeks of the year, and he's the guy that comes through in September for the Brewers after all this that he's been through this season?
Yeah, and gets hot in the playoffs like Arcia kind of did for us last year.
Could you imagine? It'd be awesome, and at least one way to sort of salvage what has otherwise been a very lost year for a guy who's been very productive for us the last 2 years, and who I think that we were really counting on going into the season. I'm not predicting that, though, by the way, guys. I just want to be clear. I wish I was. I
mean, I probably said all year, there's no way this guy's going to bet $150 all year, and here we are. So
I think we're down to what, 14 games left after today?
Get hot. Come on.
I keep trying to figure out reasons why Travis Ross threw on the Milwaukee Brewers roster, and I've struggled time and time again on reasons why he would, by any foreseeable circumstances, still be on a major league roster, let alone a playoff contending roster. So what I've come up with is that he's on the roster for the sole purpose of hitting a game-winning walk-off home run at Miller Park in a one-game playoff against the Cubs. So once he does that, Brewer fans will understand the reasons why he's on the roster.
Yeah, I'll take that. But, I mean, in all seriousness, I think the reason why is because he's a left-handed power bat who hit 31 home runs for 2 years running. I mean, going into this season, you had no reason to expect that he was going to drop as far off the face of the earth as he did. I don't think that people were necessarily thinking that, he's going to be a 30-plus home run a year guy every single season. But, I mean, he has been the last 2 years. That's why he's on a major league roster.
So we should probably have a segment where we talk about how we should, if we can kind of line up our playoff rotation ahead of time so that I'm just kidding. I don't know. We probably already talked about this for months, but again, if we were to make a wild card game, it looks most likely to be against the Washington Nationals at this point. Who we even have a starter, and I guess the answer is it doesn't really matter. Because I think it's going to come down to the guys in the bullpen, middle of the bullpen. Josh Hader will probably get in there as soon as possible and everything. But with that being said, obviously, with our druthers, I would say maybe Brandon Woodruff will be up to speed by then, but it's hard for me to believe that he would be able to throw very many Well, we'll see, I guess. Hopefully he can make a couple of starts prior to the end of the season, and hopefully he can be effective.
You're right.
He'd be a huge addition to the team at this point.
Yeah, I agree, Craig. I think it's going to be Woodruff, in that scenario that you painted the picture of. Yeah, I think it's got to be Woodruff if his arm strength is back up to throw at least, even 4 or 5 innings. Given the nature of, a one and out type of game or that scenario, I think that you are planning on it being a bullpen game. All hands are obviously on deck. So I don't know. I think Woodruff could do that in that scenario. Hopefully give you a few, 3, 4, 5 quality innings. Anything else would be a bonus. And like you said, probably bring in Hader right away in any sort of trouble. You got to shut teams down right away at that point. So I don't know. It could be interesting. I think just because the way he's pitching now, and I would not have said this in April, but even Lyles, maybe starting that game, it's bizarre. Our opening day starter is now pitching for the Red Sox. We've got our, best pitcher from a couple years ago that isn't throwing well at all, and Jimmy Nelson. I don't know. I don't think it would be Chase Anderson. Maybe Davies. Maybe Zach Davies. He's kind of hit or miss, but I think it's got to be Woodruff.
Well, it should definitely be interesting, and I guess we do this so often, but we're gonna do it again because we absolutely have to. Right now, as it stands, as of this taping anyway, we're 3 games behind the Cardinals and we're a game behind the Cubs for the division, but we're hanging out. I guess for the second wild card spot, we're still a game behind the Cubs as well. Things get interesting though, because like we've talked about on this podcast so many times, we've got a chance. Like we thought, hey, this is a team that's potentially could get really, really hot in September. And here we're sitting, we won 9 of our last 10. And now we got a home series where we play the Padres 4 times and then Pittsburgh for 3 games. And then we go on the road for 3 with the Reds and 3 with the Rockies. Those teams are okay, but there's a lot harder schedules out there. And meanwhile, the Cardinals, man, look at what they have coming up. They have 3 with the Nationals. Then they got 4 at Wrigley, 3 at the Diamondbacks, and then 3 more at home against the Cubs. So the Cubs and Cardinals are going to play each other 7 more times in the next 2 weeks. We got a real chance here, guys.
Yeah. And as we saw last September, literally anything can happen with a team that's playing well. Right now, the Brewers are 11-3 in September so far on the month. So, but yeah, we're 11-3 on the month and 3-0-1 in series play in September as well. Split that first series of the month against the Astros in a 2-game set. But other than that, have beaten the Cubs, beaten the Cardinals, and beaten the Marlins in the other 3 series that we've played so far in September.
I think of the last podcast, I mentioned, I just threw up there that I think in order for the Brewers to sneak in a second wild card, we'd have to go at least 13-7 to finish out the year, which means about 1 loss per series that was left. Well, we went 6-1 this week, which means by my math, we'd only have to go 6-6 to close out the season, and we played all games against teams with losing records. So I think we have a really good chance to go more than 6-6 ends up seeing the fact that I really think we still need to, at this point, only lose maybe 4 or 5 games. I think we'll be in good shape. But if you look at that Cardinals-Cubs, the fact that they play 7 times against each other, they're going to be roughly a split most likely, which means, and if I had to guess, I would say that the Cardinals will probably win those 7 games 4-3, just because I feel like they're better and playing better at this point. But so that gives the Cubs 4 losses just against the Cardinals in the next 2 weeks. So this really puts us in a good position to kind of, in my opinion, control our own destiny in some ways, which that's all you can ask for at this point of the season. All we have to do is play well to finish out the season. And in my opinion, probably win, like I said, about 7 of our remaining games, 7 or 8 of our remaining games would really, I think, get us in there, if nothing else, at least into a 1-game playoff like last season. And I wish, Pat, can you have your interns figure out if we ended up tied for a second wild card going into the end of the season, just like last year, who would host the 1-game playoff between us and the Cubs?
We would
Maybe
because we won the
Yeah.
season. We would because we won the season series against them 10-9.
By one game.
Awesome. I will be at that game if it happens.
All right, that's a vow. But guys, we shouldn't. Obviously, it's mathematically more likely that we'd be in that position for the wild card. But I don't think we can discount a couple of things. Number one, because the Cubs and Cardinals play each other so many times, and because anything can happen in September, 3 games is not insurmountable with this many games yet to play, even for the division, which would eliminate the need for the 1-game scenario. So I don't think we should completely eliminate the thought that we could actually win this division. We did pick up a game against the Cardinals in this 3-game set, because of the schedules being what they are, and I just don't think we can limit that as a potential possibility as well. And as far as the wild card scenario goes, yeah, the Cubs, they played pretty well this weekend against Pittsburgh, but they've been playing fairly poorly overall in September. And I say that the Nats have not been playing well recently either. I mean, they won against Atlanta today as we tape this on a Sunday, but their bullpen just has so many questions. And I just say that going to a lot of Nationals games, I really don't think that they're much more talented than the Brewers. And I don't think that it's a given that the Brewers are going to be the second wild card. I think we could either be the first wild card or we could be even division champions yet.
So let me ask this. Craig, by your math before, that we had started pretty much at the beginning of this month. Yeah, I think you said 13-7. Basically, we have to win every series no matter what. And that would put us at, what would it be, 87 wins? Maybe? I don't know. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, if we finish with 87 wins right now, some other websites only predict that we would finish with 87 wins, and there's only a 52% chance that we would make the playoffs. So that is a little tricky. And even right now, they say there's only a 5% chance that we're going to win this division, but I don't care what the numbers say. Like, I actually think that there's a real chance.
But those percentages always change, too. I mean, each game is, going to sway those percentages. I think the Brewers were at a 1% chance as recently as like a week ago. So, I mean, I don't put too much stock in that. I would love to see what those percentages were at the beginning of September in 2018. That's, to me, it would be a very interesting thing to see.
Well, if you remember, one of our colleagues, Tom Hardicourt, said that he tweeted out that there was no way that we were going to win this division after we had lost, I think it was a game to the Cubs or something. And that tweet instantly aged very, very poorly. It was like 6 days later, and we were right back in the thick of it. And then, of course, we came back and won the division. So,
this is also a colleague. This is also a colleague that reported that, quote, the Brewers were not going to be very active in the offseason the day before. The Brewers acquired Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain in January of 2018. He's also the same the same colleague that has reported numerous times that the Brewers weren't going to be active at the deadline each year, and then we are active at the deadline. This isn't a guy that's necessarily known for his reliable scoops or asking good questions or anything of that nature. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Sometimes Thomas and our colleague Tom Hardicourt, not our anonymous source Tom Carter, has some fuzzy math, so to speak.
Well, and he's fairly new at this profession, so I mean, give him a little bit. I mean, I remember when we were, when we were still pretty green at this, and we had a lot of reporters that were extremely helpful toward us. He was not one of them, but there were plenty of them that really tried to take us under their wing and were very helpful, and we're very appreciative.
Yeah, Darren Sutton was very, very nice.
Yeah, Darren Sutton was nice. Don't forget, this is also a guy that literally put into print that Mauricio Dubon would be the first Honduran-born player to ever play in the major leagues, and that's quickly refutable by looking at baseballreference.com. So, anyway.
What can he do? Well, he did promptly block everybody that disputed.
He did.
Oh, well, it happens. And I don't know.
So,
what an exciting game, though, today. We really didn't even go over it, but can you imagine? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you dream about when you're a kid, You're down by 1. You're getting booed by 40, 50,000 people. You got a 3
bitter rival.
Loaded, down 1, and just absolutely crush
Craig texted to our group text thread, right before the big home run, and I think he was right. I didn't want to say it. I was too nervous, but I think you said something, Craig. You said something along the lines of this. Why do I feel like the season rests on this at bat? I'm paraphrasing, but something along those lines. And
yep,
it was pretty accurate in my mind as well. And I didn't even want to respond, man. I was too nervous, but it was so exciting when Braun hit that home run. And Craig, before you jumped on here, Scott and I were talking a little bit, and we were kind of debating, but who in franchise history has had more iconically big moments than Ryan Braun? I mean, we were talking about Cecil Cooper. He had one huge, very iconic, and rightfully so, franchise moment in 1982 in the ALCS. But who has had as many as Ryan Braun? I think back to the 2008 game against the Cubs. I think back to, other games on the stretch that year against the Pirates. I think back to 2011. I think back to, big moments in the clutch. And it seems like Ryan Braun has just come through again and again for this team over the years. And it's kind of cool just because he's done it for so many seasons, and he's been a Brewer since 2007. But I couldn't think of anybody else that has been involved in as many clutch moments. Even guys like Molitor and Young, who were here for a lot of years, didn't play on many postseason teams. Each of those guys played on 2 postseason teams for Milwaukee in 81 and 82. And I don't know if I can think of another guy who's come through as many times as Ryan Braun has down the stretch for Milwaukee in games that are counted.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact that, he's the Brewers' all-time leader in home runs. He's been with us quite a while. He signed 2 contract extensions, and it's been through a lot with the Brewers, seen a couple of playoff teams. But, there's just certain guys, and you see this at all different levels of sports, that just have, I don't want to call it a clutch gene, but there's something about that moment of pressure that makes them really come through. They step up their game, and I'd say, a lot of the all-time greats have that instinct in them, and I believe where they can just rise to the occasion, so to speak. And obviously, Ryan Braun has that, and I think that's a really fortunate thing for the Milwaukee Brewers franchise, and has been.
Yeah, my first thought was, is this going to be like another bobblehead day? I mean, I'm not saying it is, but like the Brewers made a bobblehead of Braun's big home run against the Cubs in 2008, and I just thinking if this game, and again, it's too premature to say, but if this game is the game here in September that kind of leads the Brewers to, say that we go on a huge run and end up winning the division, or at least make the playoffs. I mean, this game could really be viewed as the turning point game, just because of where we are in the season, and the opponent, and the lateness of the game, and the fact it was a grand slam. It's just iconic for so many reasons already, and it just happened within the last hour.
Yeah, and I know they say, I don't know who's but it's something like luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity and all that kind of fun stuff. But unfortunately, clutch is sort of the same way. And Molitor and Yount, unfortunately, they weren't a part of too many really, really great playoff runs. And, of course, the 2 wild card spots definitely help. I mean, imagine if we would have had those around, in the 80s, or it would have been absolutely phenomenal. It wouldn't have mattered in the 90s.
Right. No, that's – Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Scott. That wasn't a critique of Yount or Molitor. I was just saying that, as the game is played today, it's just that we're in these types of situations more often. So, and that's definitely a big part of it too. But yeah, no, not a critique of Yount or Molitor at all, and not actually stating what the value is to the franchise overall, or who's the best player, or anything of that nature. Just kind of saying it because it seems like it's Ryan Braun again and again in these situations over the years, and having had him since 2007 up in Milwaukee, it's just he's had an opportunity to do it in a different format than Yount and Molitor, so it's hard to compare really to wild cards. Yeah, and there really is no recency bias there either. I mean, it's hands down. Braun has been a part of it for so long. With he's been on some really good teams, and he's been able to come through each time more often than not. And it's just gotta be exciting to be on that plane right now, taking the flight back to Milwaukee, knowing that you just took 2 out of 3 from the Cards in St. Louis. It's awesome.
And I believe Braun was actually part of our playoff team in 2008 that got our playoff monkey and ended our drought for such a long time, and then in 2011, and then of course last year's run to the doorstep of the World Series. I don't believe that any player besides Braun was still on the team last year that was on either of those, or I should say on both of the 2008, 2011 playoff teams. So it just shows Braun's longevity, and this is like a second wave of complete Brewer roster that he's been with. That have made, been contenders. So he's obviously a vital plug to that.
Yeah, and again, this is post wildcard era, and 2008 was obviously a wildcard, but no other Brewer in franchise history has appeared on more than 2 playoff teams until Ryan Braun in 2018. So Yount, Molitor, Gantner, Simmons, Fingers, all those guys were both on 81 and 82, but no other player was there for a third one like Ryan Braun was in 2018. And if the Brewers were to make the postseason this year, it would be 4. So it's certainly a measure of how valuable he's been to the franchise on some level, at least.
Yep. One other thing I don't want to point out, we at the beginning of this month, things weren't quite as rosy, and we were looking at the schedule. Like, we had a shot, but we had to play really well in the month of September once again. But we really had kind of earmarked those games against the 4-game set against the Cubs at Miller Park and the 3 games against St. Louis here on the schedule. And the Brewers end up taking both those series 5 games to 2, and they did it with their backs against the wall. They actually lost the first game of the 4-game set against the Cubs in Wrigley, and they finished by winning the last 3 games of the series and win that series. And here in St. Louis, the same thing. They open up with a loss, but once again, that really put their backs to the wall, and they came through clutch once again, end up winning the last 2 games of the series and taking it. And that's really, I think, they've put themselves in a rare position to be, even though they're a game behind the wild card and a couple games from the division, to be in the driver's seat. If they can really finish up and beat these teams that they should be beating, all with losing records. I know there was a stretch prior to the All-Star break where they did not do so well when they played poor teams. And I think this is a time for redemption for that, and I think they really have to continue to do that. I mean, the Padres are a decent team. The Pirates are pretty awful. I mean, their pitching is bad, and their lineup is pretty bad. I mean, this weekend against the Cubs, I feel like they gave up at least 40 runs in 3 games to the Cubs. It was ridiculous. And so hopefully they have a little bit of that to offer to us next weekend at home. And, it's going to be an exciting end of the season, and that's all you can ask for as a Brewer fan.
Well, and their whole middle of the order is out right now. I only know because I have them in fantasy, and I'm really worried now. But Josh Bell is going to be out for at least a few more days. He might be back for that Brewers series. It's going to be close. And then Marte, same thing. I don't think he's going to make it, but it'll be close too.
Well, hopefully not, because we need to take that series big time. But I'm definitely excited. I'm hoping to go to tomorrow's game even. Hopefully, some more this week. We'll see. So I'm definitely excited.
Greg, you gonna meet Scotty and me in Denver for the last series of the year?
No, I'll have to check into that. We'll see. Like I said, if there's a 1-game playoff at Miller Park, I'll definitely be at that. But if I can get out there at Denver, I would do it. But we shall see.
We need
maybe Chad will come out. Chad, are you on?
Chad.
Didn't know if Chad was on or not, but yeah, maybe he'll come too.
Chad's not here. He's watching a certain team play the Denver Broncos right now. So
he also, unfortunately, he likes to bet, and he's a gambler. I don't think any of us are gamblers, but unfortunately, I gave him some bad advice and told him to take the Dolphins against the spread this weekend, and I think they actually lost by 43 points or something like that. So he might not be. He might be upset with me.
Wait,
by the way, he's not on this
was the spread though 43.5 points or more?
It was close. It was like 20 points.
It's not bad.
Wait, what sport are you guys talking about?
Some other sport people watch. Football.
Well,
did not know football had started yet.
Gamble on baseball too, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, commissioner's office found out, but that's okay. In any event.
So, all right. Well, what is your guys' prediction on this home stand? Seven games, or last 7 games at home, Padres, and then 3 against Pirates. What is your prediction?
Let's go 5-2. I'll say 5-2.
Scott?
I will also say 5-2.
I know we were all pessimistic last week and only said, I think we all said 5-2, and we ended up going 6-1 last week, so we undersold the Brewers. But
I said 4-3 last week. Whoops.
Oh.
Prove me wrong, children.
6-1.
Prove me wrong.
We're hot right now. I'll go 6-1.
Awesome.
Why not?
All right, Craig. Love it that you're the optimistic one. That's great. That's great. Well, hopefully it's a winning homestand, guys. Yep. Let's per usual. Yeah. Let's hope it's a winning homestand, and we're still in the driver's seat by the time we tape our next podcast next week. Hey, guys, before we sign off really quick, I just wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts were on the Brewers announcing they were going to extend the nets down the first and third baselines for next season.
I'm totally fine with it. In fact, I'm all for it. I mean, I think the safety of the fans, especially someone who's got a few small kids, and everyone likes to criticize people are like, your kid got hit by a foul ball and now they're severely injured. You should have been watching your kid. I think those people that say that have never had kids because they, anything could happen in a split second. I mean, kid eating an ice cream or something, not looking at the game, or your parents basically just trying to, keep their kids from disturbing others, and it's going to distract you from the game for a couple of seconds or whatever, and that's all it takes for a foul ball to come in and injure someone. So absolutely, the nets, there's no problem with it. And I know people used to sell tickets at Miller Park. People would always complain, I don't want to sit behind a net, blocks my view. 100% false. The nets are completely see-through for the most part, and does not really distract from the game at all. I guess the one thing that might, for kids down the line to be able to catch foul balls, I know that's like chasing them down, that might prevent that maybe a little bit, but I think safety's first, so no problem with it.
So we kind of got our 2-minute warning, but I will answer it by saying, even when kids are like deeply engrossed in the game, they could be like, I don't know, taking a selfie to remember it, or they could be looking at even more content about the game that they're at on their phone at the time. Like, there's a lot of things that can distract people and kids and whatnot. And I remember when I visited Japan like 15 plus years ago, they already had the netting all the way down the left and right field line. And I was like, hey, wow, that's not a bad idea. And so, we're almost there. So,
and I mean, really quick, I disagree a little bit with you guys. I just think, if you've got kids, you can, choose to sit in a seat maybe that isn't quite in as direct a line of fire or foul balls. And I do think it limits. I understand the perspective and appreciate it. I do think that, and it is easy for me to say, not having kids, but I do think that it does limit some of the fan interaction. Guys getting autographs or wanting to talk to players or get pictures before the game. I've seen it at other stadiums where those nets are a real detriment to that, and I just have so many good memories of some of those interactions as a kid that I think that we're losing out on some of those interactions, and I think that could be detrimental and maybe harmful to the long-term interests of people, engaging with the sport. So I see that there's different opinions on this, but yeah,
that's anyway. A fair point. But in the age of cell phones now, I mean, people are looking up scores and other things on their phones, all games going on. So it's going to protect everyone. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying, Vince.
Yeah, and I just think if you wanted to be protected, you could sit in a seat that's not necessarily as close to, the first baseline or third baseline or whatever it is. But anyway,
guys, we got 20 seconds, so follow us.
Well, hey, give us a follow. Brew Review 1 on Twitter.
Give us a 5-star rating. Look on Facebook. All that other stuff. Like
St. Louis
podcast with an S.
Go Brewers.
St. Louis. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers. Thanks a lot, guys.